Mandela Effect. This video will be a collage of videos explaining the Mandela Effect. It's going to show undeniable examples of the Mandela Effect happening, personal events where the Mandela Effect came in to my life, and also it's going to explain why you see the Mandela Effect happening. Now, there's several conspiracies out there, but this video will show you clear evidence of the truth. I'm going to start off with a couple of examples, and this is one that greatly impacted me. And even my wife remembers this one as she went through the details with me. Now, what this is the Family Feud curse. Now, the Family Feud curse, I'm going to go right into what the Family Feud curse is, what is said about it. Okay, it says that there was a host by the name of Ray Combs. He followed Richard Dawson. He was the second host of Family Feud. He simply walked off the set without a word of farewell. And 2 years later, after experiencing marital woes and devastating financial losses, Ray Combs committed suicide in a psychiatric ward by hanging himself. That's what the story is. That's the curse. Well, how could it be a curse if only one person had done it? You see, the difference is Ray Combs wasn't the first Family Feud host to hang himself. Back in the mid-'80s, Richard Dawson hung himself in a hotel room. And then following him was Ray Combs and Ray Combs' death. That's what started the Family Feud curse, because two of the Family Feud hosts, the first two, Richard Dawson and Ray Combs, both committed suicide. That's what the curse was about. Not just one individual, there were two. And like I said, my wife even recalled this one vividly. She was giving me details to Richard Dawson's death. And I remember back at the time, the third host of was Louis Anderson. And if you ever saw Louis Anderson stand up, he was like a depressed comedian. I was like, wow, if anyone back then, I said, if anyone's going to follow in with the third host to commit suicide, it would be Louis Anderson. Well, thankfully he didn't. But here is where the Mandela Effect comes in. Richard Dawson never did commit suicide. He died in 2012 at the age of 79. Now, I remember vividly when I was a kid, I watched Hogan's Heroes. It was a show that I liked to watch. It was on right after school. And, of course, Richard Dawson, I also watched The Family Feud. So when I was a kid, I was not devastated, but, it hurt. It was somebody that I liked to watch on TV was gone. And like I said, I have a vivid memory. It was around between 84 and 85 that he committed suicide in a hotel room by hanging himself. The next Mandela Effect that I want to show you was sent to me by a friend, and I apologize. I had your name or your ID for YouTube, but I don't have it now. But I give you thanks, and maybe it'll be here in a video. But it has to do with the Nazi swastika. The Nazi swastika, as I remember it, always stood upright. But now, if you look back in the old pictures and old videos of the Nazis, the swastika is tilted sideways to the right. And this is completely different for me. I never saw this before. As I mentioned, I used to have the Time Life series, the books of Adolf Hitler, World War II, and I looked at all the pictures. I don't recall the swastika being tilted to the right at all. And the funny thing about it is I was at an antique shop, and they had a Nazi swastika inside there. And I was looking at it, I was wondering, is this thing real or is it fake? And then I received the email message, or not email, but the post on a video about it being tilted. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And the funny thing is that in the Emporium antique shop, it was standing upright, which says that it's a fake, as funny as that is. And also another thing to do with Nazi Germany, another Mandela effect is the V for victory symbol that you see on the arm sleeves of the soldiers. Back in those old books, they didn't have the V for victory symbol. The only ones that used the V for victory symbol were the Allies, Winston Churchill and Roosevelt. But now, in these old images, you see the V for victory symbol going to the Nazis, as well as that tilted swastika. Hello, this video is about the Mandela Effect. I made a couple previous videos about the Mandela Effect, and I'm going to use two clips, one from each of those two previous videos in this video, as well as in those videos I explain what the Mandela Effect is, as I will right now. The Mandela Effect is the use of Solomonic magic to alter nature. What is Solomonic magic? Well, Solomonic magic comes from King Solomon. King Solomon is the son of King David, and King David is known for the Star of David. The Star of David is the planet Saturn, and Saturn in the occult is seen as Satan. Well, what happens when they alter nature? They alter nature, and God made our realm in a perfect mathematical sequence. It's known as the golden ratio or the Fibonacci sequence. It's 1.619. And once Solomonic magic is used, it alters the sequence. But everything stays in a perfect mathematical code. So you will see changes in nature. We don't change, but nature does. And here is the start. Watch these two videos and then a third. And at the end, I will tell a story. Here is a map of the United States. This one I showed before in a previous video, and I do have to show it again because I got a little more evidence and I just want to show it a little deeper. It has to do with, if you look at the top left of the map, and if you know where Idaho is, to the far left is Washington, at far top left. You come over one, there's Montana, that big state. And then you go down and you have Idaho. But if you look to the far left in the second map, you have Washington, then Idaho goes up to the Canadian border, then you have Montana. Well, I remember the map to the left. I've worked in an industry where I placed phone calls and I had to be conscious of time zones. And I worked for banks, I worked for agencies, I worked for an attorney's office, a couple of attorneys. And I always had to be aware of the time zone because you could go in violation of the law. And when I would get a map, it always appeared as the map on the left. Idaho did not go to the Canadian border. Also, I believe it's the Victorian Lake up on the left-hand side. I never knew that existed. I used to hear that there used to be tidal waves that would come in, and people that would be fishing up in Washington would wipe them out. But now where those people were getting wiped out at, there's a lake there. And like I had mentioned previously, I've never knew of Idaho going up to the border of Canada. And I looked for stories on it if I could find anything older, and everything is like newer. So I believe that Idaho was exactly like it is on the left-hand side of the map. Okay, here, now this is a drawing that you're seeing, and it takes you through a step-by-step in regards to it. So they're showing each state how to draw the state. As you see, they click through and it goes deeper. Okay, this is how you draw out the map of America. All right, and they keep going through. But and when they're finished, you see that that's how they draw Idaho. You would think that they'd be more subject to detail if you're going to draw something to this magnitude, especially. You would want to have them right. You're not just going to draw them all silly. So I believe that that is how the United States was shaped. I never lived in Idaho, never went to Idaho, but I remember it on the map. And when I first saw it, it looks like, it's so much different than it was actually shocking to me. And if you look at the face of Montana, it looks like a face coming into there. It's just weird. Ford with the curl or Ford with the straight line. And I remember it as being Ford with a straight line. I actually worked at Ford for a little while, and when I looked at the logo and I saw the curl on it, I'm like, when did they change that? Because I used to drive a Ford F-150. This truck was a 1976, had a stick shift, had a suicide knob on it. It was an awesome truck, but yeah, I remember I would be out by that truck all the time, and it had a straight line. Well, here's what that logo is based on. If you look at Henry Ford's signature, it's the same exact thing as the logo. Each time in his signature, he always has a straight line. And I'll take you back to that Ford logo here. You see that straight line just like his signature, and the whole thing is the ORD is his signature. The whole Ford thing is his signature. He has no curls in his signature. So I would presume that that circle is something that appeared at a later time.
I was a 9-year-old kid in the 1960s, had a big afro, and visiting some relatives of a friend of mine in Virginia. So I was in Virginia. There was the small black and white TV, and there were the first fuzzy images of Neil Armstrong taking his first steps on the moon. The moon, The moon is up there, but how does it, you go through this sort of existential, are they really up there? Because you can see the moon. It's not something hidden. You didn't need special apparatus to know that the moon is up there. It's there. And I remember thinking distinctly, first moon landing. Be the beginning of a whole new era. And I'm sure I was not alone with those thoughts. But because I was certain, as was everyone else, that it was the beginning of an era, I didn't jump for joy or do somersaults. I just said, it's the beginning. So there we were anticipating the moon landing. Then you watch the moon landing, and then you reflect on the moon landing, and as time moved on, it never kept happening. It was just there, now receding in the past. And had I known that our first steps on the moon would essentially be our last steps on the moon, I would have done somersaults. I would have said, oh my gosh, this is a unique moment in the history of our species, never to happen again. Let me revel and celebrate and pop champagne corks. I would have felt differently had I known that that was the beginning of the end rather than the beginning of the beginning.
Well, Leo Degrassi clearly states that there was one moon landing. He must not have had a TV to watch these other ones. The moon landings happened from 69 up until 72. They say that 6 moon landings happened within that time frame during the Apollo missions. And my story begins here because when I was a child, I used to hear stories of the moon landing. And my uncle would tell me, as well as our neighbors. We would sit with our neighbors in the backyard, and we'd look up at the sky about the same age as my parents. I was a much younger kid, and I would hear the older kids speak about the moon landing, and they said that we never went back for that first time because it says that they found aliens when they went there. That was the story, and I was fascinated when I was a kid. I heard again about the moon landing at the time of Richard Nixon's death, when France was in an uproar and they're saying about the moon landing was faked. And I was like, how ridiculous to even say something. But after Richard Nixon's death over in France, they released a report both that moon landing was faked and as well as that Richard Nixon was gay. But anyways, years later, I hear about the Mandela Effect. And I go to my uncle because my uncle was the one on those starry nights that used to tell me about the moon landing. He knew all about that stuff. And he told me that they're only there once, and that it was a rumor because of aliens. But I go to him and I ask him about it, and I was like, "Did you hear that there were, how many moon landings were there?" And today he tells me six. So there were six moon landings. And I was very clear, just like Leo Degrassi. I used to watch Leo Degrassi when I'd get ready for college. I'd have a night class, and his show was always on just before I had to leave. So I'd start watching that before I'd have to leave, get halfway through it. And he would talk about one moon landing. Well, as this goes on, I have another story. And this story here is about a death of a celebrity. Now, the celebrity in question is not important at all. It has nothing to do with the story, basically. Other than I remember the story. Someone came to me, and there was a newscast on. Someone very, very dear, couldn't get more dear in my life, says to me this. They say that I remember them dying before. And I was like, you know what? I vaguely remember hearing something about them dying before. And they were certain. They were like, no, they died twice, I'm telling you. And I'm like, maybe you're experiencing the Mandela Effect. Well, as the summer, this is the beginning of the summer, at the end of the summer, I see that celebrity is still alive. And I was blown away. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to blow someone away with this information. I go over to that person and I say, hey, I ask about that celebrity. And I go, do you know anything about them, live or dead? They say to me, yeah, I've been watching them on TV for the longest time. They're not dead. And I thought I was going to blow them away, but I was blown away by that information. Please leave your thoughts on this video. Thank you.
Look, me and the McDonald's people, we got this little misunderstanding. See, they're McDonald's. I'm McDowell's. They got the golden arches. Mine is the golden arcs. Now, see, they got the Big Mac. I got the Big Mick. We both got 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, and onions. But they use a sesame seed bun. My buns have no seeds. See, they're McDonald's. I'm McDowell's. See, they're McDonald's. I'm McDowell's. See, they're McDonald's. I'm McDowell's.
Okay, how do you remember? Do you remember McDonald's or McDonald's? Long time ago, I was driving through a drive-thru with my mother, and I asked her the question. I go, when did McDonald's turn into McDonald's? And she shrugged her shoulders and looked at me like, nah, I don't know. And like total insignificance, but I truly thought it at the time. And she looked at me like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And the conversation went no further. But I'm going to show you what they call Mandela Effect residue. Okay, and this is about hamburger chain sues steakhouse for $3 million involving ads. See, it says McDonald's sues Bonanza. Bonanza became Ponderosa. They're still open today, Ponderosa chain. But McDonald's, you deserve a break today. And what Bonanza did is they took "You Deserve a Steak Today" off of the slogan from McDonald's. This next one is McDonald's is expanding its East Side restaurant. Notice it says McDonald's restaurant at the top. This is very interesting. Then you go to the bottom of the paragraph. Now, it's not highlighted, but you'll see McDonald's restaurant on West Main Street. McDonald's both times. But then when it comes to McDonald's Corporation, it goes to Mick instead of Mac. And the reason I think that name, McDonald's Corporation, has some magical sequence to it. But I'll take you into that in a little bit. All right, here we go with here's how it all started for me with this McDonald's logo. I was trying to show that this image is arrows, poison arrows fired into the ground. That's what I stated. This is from a book that I wrote back in 2014 called A Taste from the Wine of Astonishment. I also show the 1 and the 3. If you look at it sideways, you'll see that the McDonald's wrote out is a 1, and then you see the arches is a 3. But then you look at the M turned sideways, and it's a 3 and a 3. 1333. What does that represent? 13 represents the zodiac, 13 sign zodiac, 88 constellations. What does the 33 represent? Well, if you know, in your local town, you have a Mason Lodge, and it's a 32nd degree. Well, they say the highest form of Freemasonry is the 33rd degree, and what that represents is Satan. The two of them together represents Hermanibus. Hermes and Anubis joining together. Anubis is another name of Satan, so Satan and Lucifer joined together. All right, in a previous picture, what it shows is the McDonald's. This is the sign that I had right in the middle. This was there back in 2014. This is how the logo looked in 2014. It had that McDonald's through the arches, and I didn't want that because I wanted the 13 to be represented the way that it is now. Because about a year or two ago, I found a book, and I'm looking at the last page, and I was like, I never remembered getting that correct picture, but it was like I got it, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I was actually happy about it. But that is how the logo looked, and I searched all over to get the logo on the right, and I could not find it back then in 2014. Well, the logo to the far left, I searched everywhere, and I never saw that logo once. But it's there now. All right, and if you notice, a lot of these zodiac symbols, they look a lot like those McDonald's arches. Take a peek at. All right, next I'm going on to Ford with the curl or Ford with a straight line. And I remember it as being Ford with a straight line. I actually worked at Ford for a little while, and when I looked at the logo and I saw the curl on it, I'm like, when did they change that? Because I used to drive a Ford F-150. This truck was a 1976, had a stick shift, had a suicide knob on it. It was an awesome truck. But yeah, I remember I would be out by that truck all the time, and it had a straight line. Well, here's what that logo is based on. If you look at Henry Ford's signature, it's the same exact thing as the logo. Each time in his signature, he always has a straight line. And I'll take you back to that Ford logo here. You see that straight line just like his signature, and the whole thing is the ORD is his signature. The whole Ford thing is his signature. He has no curls in his signature. So I would presume that that circle is something that appeared at a later time. Here's the Target symbol. And I remember each one of these Target symbols for the store. And I'll also tell you this much. Each one of these symbols I know is a symbol of Amun-Ra. Amun-Ra, another name for Amun-Ra is Amen. If you look up Amun-Ra on Wikipedia, you'll see another name for him is Amen. Every time you hear Amen in the Bible, it represents Amun-Ra. Here's a next one that I'm going to go to. In Russia, Poland used to border Russia, as far as I can remember. I know that Russia did go through its democracy period, then it went back to being a dictatorship. Well, it went from communist to dictatorship, and then it went from communist to a democracy to a dictatorship. Okay, and here is how I remember it. I colored in the red on here. And I remember it bordering Poland. I didn't remember Ukraine shooting out into Europe because, like in that previous picture, it's projected halfway into Europe. But on to the next one. This is the reason why the Mandela Effect happens. And what this is Aleister Crowley, and he's writing about Solomonic magic, often referred to as black magic. It posits a complex system for the invocation of angels and demons. Okay, so there's summons and angels and demons when doing this, and for achieving changes in nature. So they change nature. Nature gets altered when they're doing this Solomonic magic, or referred to as black magic, and operating through them. Okay, this is the sort of magic that is often represented by the use of spells, incantations, and rites. Okay, and here is Genesis 1. Okay, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Okay, God created the heaven and the earth. How did he do it? Okay, well, you see, here's images of famous minds of the world saying that God was a mathematician. And God created the world through magic. It's in a number sequence. Here is Galileo. Okay, he says mathematics is the language with which God has written the universe. And what does he mean by that? Okay, well, you see the Fibonacci sequence, and it's the golden ratio, 1.618. Well, what does that mean? Here's the Fibonacci number. This is how the sequence breaks down. And you can keep continuing to go with the number sequence. So 1 plus 1 equals 2, 1 plus 2 equals 3. All right, and here is the Fibonacci sequence as you see with plants in front of our eyes and how it's growing. And your body is based on this Fibonacci sequence too. Our world is based on this Fibonacci sequence. Great Pyramids of Giza are based upon it. Our universe is based upon it. Okay, so who is altering nature and making this Mandela effect happen? And here's a picture of Druids at Stonehenge. This is one example. Okay, there's Druids out there. There's followers of Aleister Crowley. If I had a bunch of Aleister Crowley's books and I went broke, and I put them for sale online, and they were gone instantly. So there's a lot of people that have involvement in it, but they don't tell you about it. It could be your neighbor. It's a Druid, or it could be a community of Druids. But here's someone that's next. Freemasons. Freemasons are involved in this. And this is Albert Pike. If you don't know who Albert Pike is, he was said to be the third leader of the Illuminati. He was involved in the Civil War. He was arrested for treason, but then he was granted freedom, as well as then they erected a statue of him that stands, I believe, in South Carolina. Well, what he says, Masonry, like all the religions, all the mysteries, conceals its secrets from all. Well, it's saying that Masonry is a religion, and yes, they do practice a religion in there. The compass, or the protractor that they use, that's a symbol that they call on it's a solar system. It's a mathematical code. It's a sequence to God. So you know, okay, there's also this group. This group is called the OTO. The OTO is in your neighborhood. They're all around. They're a sex occult. They practice blood, sex, magic. You may know the Red Hot Chili Peppers for blood, sex, sugar magic. Well, this group here is Aleister Crowley followers, just as all the Druids are. All the Druids are his followers. He wrote the book for the Druids. And this is where these witches are, right around you. All right, here is the symbol that they use. If you notice that one symbol with this, you'll see these a lot of times on Mason lodges as well. Well, the square inside the circle, you may know that square inside the circle, that's a magical circle. If you know about the pentagram, Aleister Crowley says that the pentagram is the calling card of Satan. Well, when you go to press play on any of these videos that you watch, you're pressing that triangle inside that circle. You're performing magic on it. And just so that you know, you are indebted to the entities that own the system. So when you pray in Jesus' name to the Father, forgive me for my sins, my debts, and my trespasses, because it's your debts in this one. Okay, now here's another form. Now you see this. This is JZ. And what he's doing is a triangle symbol. Okay, just like that symbol, triangle is a big symbol of magic. Okay, so he is looking to invoke a spirit by doing this. He's taken on the power of an entity. That's what it is. And when you see all his fans doing that back to him, what they're doing is they're taking in that entity and they're becoming indebted. Here is evoke. Okay, this is, you notice this downward triangle. He's projecting a downward triangle just like that priest there. And this is that's not from Crowley's book. I'm not exactly certain where this image comes from, but it could be. It possibly could be, because I have seen him dressed like that before, and I'm going to show you some images that look very similar to this in a second. All right, notice there's Adolf Hitler. He's doing the same type of downward triangle, just like Donald Trump. This is from Donald Trump's campaign when he was going to get elected. He had all of his staff wearing these downward triangles. I'm going to show you what it means coming up. Okay, this is Aleister Crowley's book. And in his books, a lot of his books, you'll have these different symbols going on like this, showing these different poses. And I'll tell you what God is attempting to invoke, or what he's attempting to do with these different gestures that he's making with his hand gestures, okay? Here's some more images of him going right out, raising his hands up, putting them down, crossing his arms. Now, again, what this is, you're either invoking or you're banishing. Evoke is, you're sending off a cursing, okay? You're accepting when you got the triangle up. When you're putting it down, you're sending out a cursing. Now I want you to watch these videos, and now you're going to see black magic being performed, and you'll see why this Mandela effect is happening.
So what happened is very simple. I said this, and all of a sudden, because I said it very, very expressively, and again, I'm trying to show somebody groveling to take back the statement he made, because he wanted to take it back because it wasn't good for the people that he knows and likes at the New York Times, the Washington Post, etc. He did this when he was at the Washington Post. So I was very expressive in saying it, and they said I was mocking him. I would never mock a person that has difficulty. I would never do that. I'm telling you, I would never do it. I would never do it. I would never do it. I don't care if I liked the person or didn't, and I don't know this person. So now this person is going around saying, I did know him, that he reported on me in the 1980s, and all of that stuff, right? I don't know him. I really don't know him. I was very expressive in saying it. I don't take that back, because the person was groveling in terms, if you read his statements about, well, did you say this and did you write this paragraph? He was really grasping for straw. And I will tell you that it is just such a shame when a disgusting newspaper like the New York Times, when some of the media, like CNN in particular, was just really unfair. When they say things that were so unfair, people that have disability, hi folks, people that have a difficulty, I cherish them. These are incredible people, and I just want to put that to rest. I didn't know him. It's possible, probable that I met him somewhere along the line, but I deal with reporters every day. Many of them I never even see. There are many people that I know even by name, although I don't remember his name, and I do have a great memory, but I will tell you, I don't know him. Now he's going, well, he knew me, and we were on first name. Give me a break. Give me a break. And the problem is, he's using what he's got to such a horrible degree. I think it's disgraceful. And I think the New York Times, frankly, should give me an apology. I do. I think they should give me. And I'd love to have the apology before they go out of business. I would love that. I would love it.
Aleister Crowley says that people can lose their soul from doing yoga. Well, yoga instructors, if you know about a lot of them where they handle these things, they're all in church-based community centers, and they'll have different type of yoga instructions. Well, this is how you would lose, like if he's doing these moves in front of you, he's practicing these Aleister Crowley moves. What they're doing is invoking spirits. This is an ancient religion that is still being practiced today, that people have no clue about its existence. If you know that there's an obelisk that exists in every single city of the world, which should tell you that it's not there by chance. There's also a Freemason lodge that exists in every town in the world, and which should tell you that they're above any government, because no dictatorship's throwing them out. There's a story about in France about 1400, but since 1400, it's been Freemasons everywhere. And when you see Donald Trump, you'll either see him in a black suit or a purple suit. The reason for that being is when you're watching him, you're seeing a priest at an altar. Know this. And what he's doing is he's either giving, in his case, he's giving out banishings. He is. Donald Trump is a high priest. Donald Trump is not like you and me. And if you watch my videos, you'll find out what he is. Have a good day. "2020 Mandela Effects." This video will show some new Mandela effects that I've recently noticed, as well as talk about old Mandela effects and how they affected me personally in my life, as well as I'm going to show you why people do not see and other people do see. I'm also going to take you through a video of a glitch that happens in reality, and it has to do with an NFL football game with the Washington Redskins and the Cleveland Browns back in 2016. And I'm going to explain to you why the Mandela effect happens. Okay, let's get it going. The very first thing that I recently noticed was Patrick Stewart. Now, he is Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek. Well, he is coming out with a new series, which astounded me because I saw him a few years back. I'd say about 2014, 2015. I heard of the announcement of his death. He had cancer back in 2012. And I looked for articles involving it, and there was a headline with it, but it didn't say anything in detail. It was about him being there in support of different type of cancer patients. But back in 2012, I remember him being diagnosed with cancer, and he died around 2014, 2015. So if you notice in this article here, it says, wasn't Patrick Stewart gay? I do remember him being in a Frasier episode where he appeared with Frasier as a gay guy, but I know for sure that this guy was gay. And man I'm talking about next is Mike Pence. And what he is the Vice President of the United States. Now, I remember Mike Pence as being a flamboyant man. Here you see him sitting next to Donald Trump. And here is a picture that circulates around the internet. Some people are saying that this is Pence, and other people are saying that it's not Pence. But if you look, it looks dead on to him. I watched an actual Netflix video some time ago that was saying that he was a gay man. Well, it didn't go into detail saying that he was 100% a gay man, but he appeared in a gay parade, and it showed him making out with another man, and he was dressed in drag. Now, this video here I pulled up Mike Pence in drag, and this drag queen comes and she did a dance or something for him at some type of rally. Now, what Mike Pence is, he's completely against gay people, and they had a protest out at his house. When I initially heard of the protest out at his house, I thought that he was the one that was sponsoring it. However, he goes after gay people, and this is all shocking to me. He's a hard man in this timeline, but he was a very flamboyant man as I previously known him. I'm not saying that that's just could be a change of way he's presented. Could be a Mandela effect or whatever, where they're hiding it on the internet. But whatever the case is, this is something very much different. I saw a Netflix video concerning him, and what he was involved with, that gay parade, and he was involved with the gay community back in the 1980s. All right, next we have Mark David Chapman. Mark David Chapman was the killer of John Lennon of the Beatles. And some of you people may be familiar with the story, some not. But back in 1981, he shot John Lennon and he went to jail. He was to serve 20 years. He came up for parole. He was denied his first parole. Then, back around 2004, 2005, I recall a news story because I spoke to my mother about it after. My mother was a big Beatles fan, and what she says is, "Did you hear about him dying in prison?" I was like, "Yeah, I watched that earlier today." And then she goes on to say, good for him that he never saw the outside and never got out of the world. And I was like, yeah, I just agreed with her. But these two pictures on the left-hand side are what I remember. These other pictures from 2012 and now this one from 2018, they kind of freaked me out because I remember him previously, and like I said, he died in prison. He was denied his first parole, but then he was coming up to another parole, but he died before the parole hearing. And I'm not sure if it was the second or third parole, but he definitely was in jail and died in jail from my memory. Here is a map of the United States. This one I showed before in a previous video, and I do have to show it again because I got a little more evidence and I just want to show it a little deeper. It has to do with, if you look at the top left of the map, and if you know where Idaho is, to the far left is Washington, at far top left. You come over one, there's Montana, that big state, and then you go down and you have Idaho. But if you look to the far left in the second map, you have Washington, then Idaho goes up the Canadian border, then you have Montana. Well, I remember the map to the left. I've worked in an industry where I placed phone calls and I had to be conscious of time zones. And I worked for banks, I worked for agencies, I worked for an attorney's office, a couple of attorneys. And I always had to be aware of the time zone because you could go in violation of the law. And when I would get a map, it always appeared as the map on the left. Idaho did not go to the Canadian border. Also, I believe it's the Victorian Lake up on the left-hand side. I never knew that existed. I used to hear that there used to be tidal waves that would come in, and people that would be fishing up in Washington would wipe them out. But now where those people were getting wiped out at, there's a lake there. And like I had mentioned previously, I've never knew of Idaho going up to the border of Canada. And I looked for stories on it if I could find anything older, and everything is like newer. So I believe that Idaho was exactly like it is on the left-hand side of the map. Okay, here, now this is a drawing that you're seeing, and it takes you through a step-by-step in regards to it. So they're showing each state how to draw the state. As you see, they click through and it goes deeper. Okay, this is how you draw out the map of America. All right, and they keep going through. But and when they're finished, you see that that's how they draw Idaho. You would think that they'd be more subject to detail if you're going to draw something to this magnitude, especially. You would want to have them right. You're not just going to draw them all silly. So I believe that is how the United States was shaped. I never lived in Idaho, never went to Idaho, but I remember it on the map. And when I first saw it, it looks like, it's so much different than it was actually shocking to me. And if you look at the face of Montana, it looks like a face coming into there. It's just weird. Okay, I have a lot more to show you as far as Mandela effects, and I'm going to go through them. These other ones you may have seen before, they're already out there. These ones that I showed you previously are not. But first, I want you to watch an NFL video, and it's going to show you a glitch in the Matrix, something that glitches during an NFL football game. You're going to watch the running back. The running back, as he's carrying the ball, you watch him the whole time. Now, they say that he fumbles the ball, he loses the ball, but you'll see that he has the ball in his hands at the end of the play while they're all skirmishing over the football. He's got the ball. What happens? Here we go.
Andy Bruton was the injured player walking off under his own power, but right to the locker room. There you take a look at Isaiah Crowell. He began his college career at Georgia. He then transferred to Alabama State. When he was coming out of high school in Columbus, Georgia, he was the #1 ranked high school running back in the country. He is playing like it here in the NFL today.
They've had no answer for Isaiah Crowell. I mean, this is the only answer they have to keep him on the sidelines. They're giving him a rest, and when they give him a rest, then Duke Johnson comes in. And he can break off big runs once he gets in space. This is a pretty good 1-2 punch for the Cleveland Browns.
There's Duke Johnson. High pick out of Miami last year. 2nd down and 2. Catch it. Duke Johnson. Walking there. Foster slowed him down. There's a loose ball. It's a fumble. And the Redskins have recovered.
You got to ask yourself, if you're Hugh Jackson, you had that stoppage of play, you held that time on the clock, you had Isaiah Crowell on the sidelines, and you put in your backup, Duke Johnson. Not very big.
Foster. I think Foster may have stripped him. 54. Or maybe it was a hit there on the side.
Wow. Back-to-back possessions.
Yes.
We had the fumble from Malcolm Johnson on the previous possession.
If you notice at the end of the video who ends up with the football, it's the running back. We'll go through the play, we'll follow the running back. And if you look to the left, you'll see that he comes up with that football in his hand. But they're saying the refs say it's the Washington Redskins ball. I'm going to show you what happens as soon as we get the signal from the Redskins. All right, well, the Redskins get the ball. And here is what happens at the end of this video. It shows a replay. This replay is all telling. Watch what happens. Watch, keep your eye on the ball. Okay. That was pretty fast. You can't really see. I'm going to take this down, break it down slowly. Picture by picture here. Watch the ball. Watch the ball. Watch the ball. Watch the ball. There's the ball. It's out. Loose. It's in the middle. Watch the ball. Oh, it disappeared in midair. Here we go again. We're going to go through that again so you can see what happens. Hey, watch the ball. There it goes. It's loose. It goes right through number 31's hand. And then it disappears. One more time. Right in the ball. Oh, disappears. So full speed, as you see as it goes along. Disappears, and then it comes back and it ends up in the running back's hands at the end of the play. Right over here we go. The running back will come right out with it, and there he is. He's holding the ball. It disappeared and it went back to him. But there's a lot more that I want to show you that happens during the course of these events. Okay, now I'm taking 2 seconds of, 2 seconds of play time, and I made it into 2 minutes of time. And I'm going to take you through this, what happens over the course of when that ball goes and disappears. Okay, here we go. First, I want you to focus on number 67. To the right, the Cleveland Browns. Watch his arm, his left arm. You see his hand appear, See his hand appear, but you can see the field in back of it. It disappears. His hand's there, watch. Watch, and you're going to see his arm appear out of nowhere. You can see the complete green field in back. No matter how slow that would appear there, but his arm actually disappears. And then watch, it's going to come in real good. It's still cloudy, and you're going to get a clear view of it. There's his arm. Disappeared, and then it came back. Now watch the guy in the middle right here. Watch what goes on. Watch his left arm. And during real time, this goes real fast. But watch what happens. And here comes his arm. There's his hand, but his arm's invisible. There's his hand, his glove. His arm's invisible. There's a part of his arm appears, a little bit of his arm, and you see that all around. Then you also see, I'm going to take it back a little bit more again. All right, now watch. Can't make out what his number is. Something for this guy right here. Watch what he does during this time. Watch, and you're going to see a quick little glitch. See this? It's going to turn blue. It turns a blue color, and then he just glitches off. Watch him again. You're going to see a blue color go over the lines, and a little blue color come across. Coming up, there's his hand that's in the air, disappears. See that? Just a quick glitch. Everything changes. He doesn't go in motion. He's just going one way, then immediately appears another way. That's okay. And you're going to see this blue come on, like a shaded blue color. There's that invisible hand. Now here he comes. He's going to glitch right out. See that? That blue, and then boom. A quick glitch change. And you see these people become invisible for a time. Where I learned about this, to record about it, it was pretty crazy. I watched a video on Netflix again that was actually talking about this. He's like, if you're ever suspected of what they are, what to do is to put them on video and put it super slow, and you'll see these glitches like this happen.
What we saw when that ball disappeared and reappeared in the running back's hands is a glitch side effect of magic. Aleister Crowley says that to perform magic, you need to alter nature. Yes, magic is real, and any of you that question this should read Aleister Crowley's Book of Magic in Theory and Practice. And I'm going to get a little bit more into that in a minute. But first, this is the last new Mandela effect that I have. Now, this is Meatloaf. Meatloaf was a singer. He's been around for a long time. I remember Meatloaf, I originally heard a story around 2010, 2012 that he passed away. Then I was astonished to find out around 2017, 2018 that they announced Meatloaf's death again. Now, today I recently seen an article, and this was from back in May of 2019. He fell off of a stage, and this is a brand new article that he is now suing due to the incident back in May of 2019. That he's 72 years old. All we can hope for with Meatloaf is that he doesn't make any more new music that we have to hear. These are famous minds that we've known throughout our lives. Tulsa, Einstein. Well, what they're saying is that God is a mathematician, and these are the quotes that they have from. Well, what does that mean, that God is a mathematician? The Fibonacci sequence is the explanation for it. The golden ratio, it's phi, 1.618. The Fibonacci sequence is known as God's fingerprint. Here is a picture of the sequence. Okay, 1 plus 1 equals 2. Then you take the last two where it goes 1 equals 2 and you add those. So 1 plus 2 equals 3. Then you take that 2 and a 3 and you add that. And then 2 and 3 equal 5, and 3 and 5 equal 8, and so on. Well, everything that we know, our bodies and all of nature, as you see these plants here, are based on the Fibonacci sequence. Our bodies, our world, our universe. The pyramid of Giza was based on the Fibonacci sequence. It's phi and pi. Phi is the 1.618, and pi is 3.14. That's the circumference of a circle. If you were to take the pyramid and you would place it right into a circle, it would fit perfectly because that's the way that it was built. It was built both in phi and pi. Okay, so what is nature? Okay, now God has the sequence. Everything that he built inside of nature is based on the sequence. So when a magician alters that sequence, what happens is the numbers have to come back again. And how do magicians alter nature? Well, the god of Pan is nature. That's what it says in this Wikipedia post, says in Aleister Crowley's book. Pan is Satan. Okay, they also alter nature by the guy to the right of them. That is Hermes. Okay, Satan is also known as Anubis in the Book of the Dead. He's the third eye of Ra. Satan is a powerful individual. Don't ever let anyone say that he is not. What you have next to him is his brother, okay, and that is Hermes. Now, in order for a magician to alter nature, they must go through one of these two. These two are your enemy. Know this. Here is Hermanibus. This is the two of them join. Anubis is known as a dog. You see the head of a dog. And that staff that he's carrying there, that's called the Catechus of Hermes. It comes from when he tosses down his staff, and the two snakes that were fighting in the desert come up together and align as one. If you notice in his right hand, what he's holding there, that is a man's penis. And this is inside the Vatican at Rome. Now, you're going to listen to John Todd speak here about witches that are among us. Most people don't know that they're within a world of witchcraft. And let him explain.
I sit on a council of 13 people that take orders only from the Rothschild Tribunal in London, which they claim they take their orders directly from Lucifer.
I was the manager of Zodiac Productions, which Zodiac Productions' name's been changed since then. I'm not even sure what they call it now, but it's the largest music conglomerate in the world. It owns RCA Records, Columbia Records, Motown Records, owns almost all the concert booking agencies in the United States. And that's not even the name of the company that owns it. The name of the company that owns it is Brenner Enterprises, and Brenner Enterprises is owned by Chase Manhattan. Chase Manhattan's owned by Standard Oil, and Standard Oil is owned by the Lords of London. You can track it on back. You kind of get the idea after a while. But I was the managing president of Zodiac Productions. It was one of my jobs as being one of these 13 people. Thus, I got to know many of the people who produce music and sing the music and play the music that you play. Now, one of the closest friends that I got during that time that I obtained was a man named David Crosby. Crosby, Still, Nash & Young. And I saw David the day before Christmas last year, talked with him. I got him away from this witch that he had with him. He told her to go shopping. We were in West Hollywood, and I was witnessing around to people I knew. We went off in this store, and we started talking. I said, David, I'd like to ask you a couple questions. I said, I already know the answers, but I've been gone for 5 years. I'd like to know if certain things are still the way they were when I left. I said, now I'll have to explain some of this when I'm done. You're not going to understand it all unless you know something about music. I said, do they still take the master to the temple room? Dave said, yeah. I said, do they still have the Coven conjure demons into the master? He said, of course. I said, now, I got to know something. what's the main reason for rock music? He said, come on, Lance, you know what the reason is. I said, please, David, I don't want to guess. Tell me what the main reason is. He says, the same as when you were in, so that we can place spells on people that we couldn't cast spells upon. I'll explain what that means in a minute. I said, okay, one last thing. I've been hearing that you must be an initiated witch now to get a record contract. He said, that's right. He says, many of us that weren't total witches have to be witches now in order to produce music. I said, thank you. The master is a tape about as big as the top of this podium that looks like an overgrown 8-track that the album is cut on and is placed in a machine that produces and presses the records and the 8-tracks and cassettes that you buy. After it's been recorded, it's taken in. This is why a master's cut months in advance before it's released. On the full moon, it's taken in to a temple room about the size of this auditorium that is in every one of the major music companies, behind locked doors up in the executive offices. And it's placed on an altar sitting in the north of the room and a pentagram engraved in the floor. And 13 hand-chosen witches and wizards and a coven come in and conjure a principality or a power up, usually Regia or something like that, and order him to tell the demons under him to follow every record and every tape coming off of that master. As I tell many Christian parents, you can go home and count your kids' records, probably yours too, and count how many demons at least are there. If that's too hard for you to believe, I'm sorry. That's why they do it. Now listen to me. This is why rock music's addicting. Have you ever seen kids that got rid of their music? They go around like this. They can't wait to find a rock station somewhere and they sneak off just like getting a cigarette or a fix because it's addicting. That's why they can't give it up. The rest of the conversation was this. You can't cast a spell on a Christian, but you can get a Christian to cast a spell on themselves. If you give the permission for the spell to work, being a Christian won't block it. And rock music is not just a song. It is supernatural music that which is carefully designed by their spirit guides or familiar spirits in the form of spells. Now, although the devil's music's power is the music and God's music is the words, much of the songs are written in what we call witch language. Give you kind of an idea. Many of you talk on a CB, unless you know what a smoky is, and a 10-4, and a front door and back door and rocking chair and these type of things. You don't know what you're talking about. Same with witches. When you're in the first and second level, you have to learn over 2,000 words that said by anybody else means something totally different than when you say them. Elton John has said he's never written a song or sung a song that wasn't in witch language. Now I want to show you something. See how many kids in here will be honest and adults. How many remember and have heard at least several times a song called Hotel California? Somebody tell me what it meant. Quickly, somebody tell me what it meant. Huh? That's pretty close. But from the words, what did it mean? Well, that's more of a guess. See, most people can't tell you. That's why when people do drugs and they listen to songs in which language, they get some of the meaning. But most of the time, they can't tell you. Stop and think how many songs are out there that you really like, and you don't have any idea what the person was talking about. Beyond the Yellow Brick Road? How about The Destroyer by Kiss? Can anybody tell me what it's about? Kiss said in it, kids, kill your parents. They're talking about Helter Skelter. Beatles sung Helter Skelter in which language? Nobody knew what it meant. Manson did because he belongs to the process. Helter Skelter is a several thousand-year-old word. Most of the music is either about Helter Skelter or a place called the Night Winds, which is what Hotel California is about, and different doctrines of witchcraft. You listen to them, your parents let you listen to them, and they have no idea. Kiss openly bragged how they were gaining control of people through their music because the people played their music. They told how they didn't form their own group. Their church, because they were ordained ministers of the Satanist church, placed them together. And that's how most of the music is done. David Crosby, when him and Crosby, Still, Nash & Young produced the record Two-Way Street, they ordered the principality of Medici to order demons of rebellion to go into the record, and everybody that heard it would be rebellious against law and order and government. And it was one of the reasons for the great upheaval in the 60s was that one album. And they take open credit for it.
I have personally talked with Johnny Todd on the basis of Jack Chick's recommendation. Having known Johnny Todd now for more than 4 years, and my having known him for some 6 months, I believe that Johnny Todd is a genuinely converted man, saved by the grace of God out of the depths of Satanism.
John Todd says that all musicians that perform and have record deals and that you hear on the radio are Druidic witches. And Aleister Crowley takes this a little bit further to other professions. Aleister Crowley says in Equinox 1 that scientists and doctors are all Druidic witches. He says in the Book of Magic that Christian scientists, now what's a Christian scientist? Christian science is the development of forms of Christianity that stem from the Catholic Church. Okay, so it becomes Protestant, Mormon, born again, Baptist, Jehovah's Witness. Okay, these are forms of Christian science. He says that all Christian science leaders are Druids. Goes on to say mental healers. So that's someone that you go to a psychiatrist. That would be a Druid, as well as doctors, the scientists, and also in this statement he says that diviners, psychics, and magicians, of course, are Druids as well. What this is a sign that you may see familiar in your neighborhood. Okay, all towns have these signs. What they are is Freemason sign, and it'll say Freemasons are accepted and practiced here. And these are the different symbols of Freemasons that are in your local neighborhood. A Freemason lodge is never far from your local police station. I've seen a lot of them that are right next door. They're usually down the road, but they're never far away from your local police station. I'm going to add in that I also believe that all judges are Druids as well. This here is the Bible. And if you know about the Knights of Templar had an original agreement that they would be in positions of power until the end of time. Well, that's the witch's covenant. A witch will have power until the end of time if, as the Rush song, Tom Sawyer, where he says the river, they must learn the river to know where they are in time and to pick up in their learning. If they pick up in their learning, they could have advancement and become stronger witches. This goes back to Thelema 93. Aleister Crowley, his form of black magic, that's a more powerful. He took the 777, condensed it into 93. What it actually means, I don't know. But black magic, someone that practices it would know more so than I. Okay, and what it says, that they don't go into the grave, they're kept alive, and they reincarnate in positions of power. So he's saying that all doctors are. Well, I know a doctor. He's not a witch. He doesn't do any witch, But, what the thing was is that they were in a previous life. They reincarnate into these positions of power. Okay, under control, the influence of the devil. This next picture here is the OTO. What the OTO is a sex occult, Ordo Templi Orientis. That stands for the Order of the Temple of Orion. And what they are is a sex occult. Okay, there's different forms of magic. The magic that you've seen, Aleister Crowley speaks to about blood sex magic. You may know that the Red Hot Chili Peppers have their album Blood Sex Sugar Magic. Well, they're demonstrating that they have involvement with the OTO. Here is a picture of Aleister Crowley on top, and he's got the 33rd degree Mason logo on his hat. Next to him is an image of Neil Peart from Rush. And Neil Peart has the double cross of Loranius, the black sun, on his t-shirt. Well, here is Neil Peart's drum kit for the Snakes and Arrows tour, and that's Aleister Crowley's logo. Notice the similarities with the snake in a circle biting its tail. It's got the arrow in between the snake on Aleister Crowley's logo. Well, when I first started learning about Neil Peart, or excuse me, when I first started learning about Aleister Crowley, I knew about Rush since I was younger. I used to read Rush's lyrics all the time and listen to their music. I was a fan. I was like, whoa, I was taken back that Neil Peart got his lyrics from Aleister Crowley. But as I learned more and I progressed in my learning, I found out that Neil Peart is an ego of Aleister Crowley and Black Magic. Before Aleister Crowley died, he did a 6-month ritual where he was to meet with his guardian angel, according to what I read. Well, if you notice Jimmy Page and you know about Jimmy Page, and I'm going to have videos at the end of this where you guys could just click and go watch these videos that correlate with this video to deeper your learning. Well, Jimmy Page, he has deep involvement with Aleister Crowley. He had to buy Aleister Crowley's cape, bought Aleister Crowley's old home. He, what I believe is that he is definitely an ego of Aleister Crowley. So if you want to learn about this, if you want this information here, there's videos more, or there's links to videos at the end. I'm going to continue with the Mandela Effect now and how it affected me. Kit Kat, this one with the dash. I remember on Halloween going over to my mother's house and I'm grabbing, she had those 2 things of Kit Kats, and I remember the dash right in the middle, and I was ripping them open. I was hungry. My mother comes in, those are for the kids. She starts yelling at me, but I remember the dash from that day. This next one is Looney Tunes. We were in a band. We had a song called Looney Tunes, and I wrote it on the board to play it to make a song list, and I put it as Tunes, as Tunes, and the drummer in the band, he's like, no, it's Tunes with the double O, and I used to fight with this guy all the time. We would get in arguments over anything, and we got into an argument over this. I was like, yeah, well, it's a tune, it's a song. And he's like, well, if it's going to be Looney Tunes, it has to be like the cartoon. And, you know, it was a senseless argument, but that's what we argued over. All right, this next one reminds me of when I was in high school, and I had a friend, his mother worked in the mornings, and he's like, hey, come over, skip school, play Monopoly. And that's what we used to do when we were kids. We got into trouble for it, but yeah, I remember that he had the looking glass. I remember it. You know, I remember looking at the box sitting at the table as clear as anything. All right, this next one here is about Black Tom, 1918. And the Statue of Liberty's arm got hit during an explosion, a terrorist explosion by German terrorists. Well, I had a friend in high school, and he had a little brother, and their family took a trip to New York City, and said that he went to the top of the torch, but his little brother wouldn't go because there was a winding staircase that went up there, and it was real steep. And I talked to his mother about it, and she's like, I didn't want to go either. So we stayed down, and my friend and his father went to the top of the torch. And apparently that's been closed since 1918. You've never been able to go up to the top of the torch of the Statue of Liberty. But I spoke to people that said that they went there. Years ago, I had an opportunity but declined. So maybe I could have as well. This next one here is Ed McMahon. Now, Ed McMahon with Publishers Clearinghouse. This one, it probably sits the deepest because after my father died, my mother, I used to see her, she had to work 3 part-time jobs to make ends meet, and things weren't making ends meet with her 3 jobs. And I remember seeing her sitting there crying, filling out her bills, that she couldn't make the money. And I'm like, Ma, you know, I was upset too. It was, you know, it was a rough time. Well, anyways, the next day, an envelope comes in the mail and it says, you could have already won $10 million. And I was just a little boy at the time, and I grab the envelope and I take it to my mother. I'm like, Ma, I think you won. I think you won. And my mother's like, that's just a scam. And, you know, that's how I remember it to this day. Publishers Clearinghouse. And then, all right, here is the last one that I have to show. And this one has to do with Mongolia. I used to play this game, Genghis Khan, on Nintendo. And Mongolia, I learned about a little bit about Mongolia. Mongolia at the time was part of China. And Mongolia didn't exist since, the long time before. Well, Mongolia is a country now, and it's a pretty big country on there. And something that's crazy too is Russia used to go to war with Afghanistan, and they used to cross over the border. And that's the whole beginning of Osama bin Laden with Afghanistan. They used to border Russia. Also, too, you see that Kazakhstan, and that was in a different spot. That was lower. That did not border Russia, but that Uzbekistan used to. And there used to be another country called Uzbekistan that was there. And Uzbekistan used to connect to Uzbekistan. And there was no Mongolia there. And Russia used to border with China. But I guess they don't at this point anymore. So those are my Mandela effects. This is the 2020 Mandela effects. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.
And Bruton was the injured player walking off under his own power, but right to the locker. There you take a look at Isaiah Crowell. He began his college career at Georgia. He then transferred to Alabama State when he was coming out of high school in Columbus, Georgia. He was the #1 ranked high school running back in the country. He is playing like it here in the NFL today.
They've had no answer for Isaiah Crowell. I mean, this is the only answer they have to keep him on the sidelines. They get him a rest, and when they give him a rest, then Duke Johnson comes in. And he can break off big runs once he gets in space. This is a pretty good 1-2 punch for the Cleveland Browns.
Here's Duke Johnson. High pick out of Miami last year, 2nd down and 2. Kessler to Johnson. Blocking there. Foster slowed him down. There's a loose ball. It's a fumble. And the Redskins have recovered.
You got to ask yourself, if you're Hugh Jackson, you had that stoppage of play, you had all that time on the clock, you had Isaiah Crowell on the sidelines, and you put in your backup, Duke Johnson. Not very big.
Foster. I think Foster may have stripped him. 54. Or maybe it was a hit there on the side.
Wow. Back-to-back possessions.
Yes.
We had the fumble from Malcolm Johnson on the previous possession.
If you notice at the end of the video who ends up with the football, it's the running back. We'll go through the play, we'll follow the running back. And if you look to the left, you'll see that he comes up with that football in his hand. But they're saying it's the refs say it's the Washington Redskins ball. I'm going to show you what happens as soon as we get the signal from the Redskins. All right, well, the Redskins get the ball. And here is what happens at the end of this video. It shows a replay. This replay is all telling. Watch what happens. Watch, keep your eye on the ball. Okay. That was pretty fast. You can't really see. I'm going to take this down, break it down slowly. Screen by, or picture by picture here. Watch the ball. Watch the ball. Watch the ball. Watch the ball. There's the ball. It's out. Loose. It's in the middle. Watch the ball. Oh, it disappeared in midair. Here we go again. We're going to go through that again so you can see what happens. Hey, watch the ball. There it goes. It's loose. It goes right through number 31's hand. And then it disappears. One more time. Right in the ball. Boom. Disappears. So full speed, as you see as it goes along. disappears, and then it comes back and it ends up in the running back's hands at the end of the play. Right over here, here we go. The running back will come right out with it. And there he is. He's holding the ball. It disappeared and it went back to him. But there's a lot more that I want to show you that happens during the course of these events. Okay, now I'm taking 2 seconds of, 2 seconds of play time, and I made it into 2 minutes of time. And I'm going to take you through this, what happens over the course of when that ball goes and disappears. Okay, here we go. First, I want you to focus on number 67. To the right, the Cleveland Browns. Watch his arm, his left arm. You see his hand appear. But you can see the field and back of it. It disappears. His hand's there, watch. Watch, and you're going to see his arm appear out of nowhere. You can see the complete green field and back. No matter how slow that would appear there. But his arm actually disappears. And then watch, it's going to come in real good. It's still cloudy, then you're going to get a clear view of it. There's his arm. Disappeared, and then it came back. Now watch the guy in the middle right here. Watch what goes on. Watch his left arm. And during real time, this goes real fast. But watch what happens. Right, here comes his arm. There's his hand, but his arm's invisible. There's his hand, his glove. His arm's invisible. There's a part of his arm appears, a little bit of his arm, and you see that all around. Then you also see, I'm going to take it back a little bit more again. All right, now watch. Can't make out what his number is. Something for this guy right here. Watch what he does during this time. Watch, and you're going to see a quick little glitch. See this? It's going to turn blue. It turns a blue color, and then he just glitches off. Watch him again. You're going to see a blue color go over the lines, and a little blue color come across. Coming up, there's his hand that's in the air, disappears. See that? Just a quick glitch. Everything changes. He doesn't go in motion. He's just going one way, then immediately appears another way. That's okay. And you're going to see this blue come on, like a shaded blue color. There's that invisible hand. Now here he comes. He's going to glitch right out. See that? That blue, and then boom. A quick glitch change. And you see these people become invisible for a time. Where I learned about this, to record about it, it was pretty crazy. I watched a video on Netflix again that was actually talking about this. He's like, if you're ever suspected of what they are, what to do is to put them on video and put it super slow, and you'll see these glitches like this happen.
Bruton was the injured player walking off under his own power, but right to the locker room. There you take a look at Isaiah Crowell. He began his college career at Georgia. He then transferred to Alabama State. When he was coming out of high school in Columbus, Georgia, he was the #1 ranked high school running back in the country. He is playing like it here in the NFL today.
They've had no answer for Isaiah Crowell. I mean, this is the only answer they have to keep him on the sidelines. They get him a rest, and when they give him a rest, then Duke Johnson comes in. And he can break off big runs once he gets in space. This is a pretty good 1-2 punch for the Cleveland Browns.
There's Duke Johnson. High pick out of Miami last year. Second down and 2. Kessler to Johnson. Walking there. Foster slowed him down. There's a loose ball. It's a fumble. And the Redskins have recovered.
You got to ask yourself, if you're Hugh Jackson, you had that stoppage of play, you had all that time on the clock, you had Isaiah Crowell on the sidelines, and you put in your backup, Duke Johnson. Not very big.
Foster. I think Foster may have stripped him. 54. Or maybe it was a hit there on the side.
Wow. Back-to-back possessions.
Fumbles, yes.
We had the fumble from Malcolm Johnson from the previous possession.